Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara Regis. I'm the author of Surviving the Business of Healthcare. Knowledge is Power. Got it right here. Um, I'm a family practice PA, and I have a real passion for medicine and passion for patient experiences. And I'm so honored to talk to you today about my efforts writing the book and what motivated me to write the book. A little background about me: I've been in practice for 25 years ish, I'd say ish, because now I'm actually in a role where I'm working with a lot of practices across the country, overseeing them from the clinic relationship and also the client relationship, and hoping to make a bigger impact from everything I've learned. I work for a company called Premise Health, and they're located in Nashville, but we're all over the country. We have 800 offices, and we are at workplace sites. And so for me, it's just an honor to be here to talk about the book. And so let's go.
Okay, so maybe you could explain more about like what a PA is for people who may not know like the difference between the doctors and like the different levels of healthcare.
Awesome. Thanks for asking that question. I'm a physician assistant, and I graduated in 1995 and or 97 actually. And I went to medical school, but it was a shorter level of training. It was only a couple of years. The first year was like what a medical student gets in their first 2 years in 1 year. And then the second year was basically going out and doing my clinicals in family practice, surgery, some electives, uh, it, emergency medicine, psych elective, those kinds of things. We're certified to practice medicine in all 50 states. Some of our states, there's the practice privilege is a little bit more autonomous, and most of our states now we're really working towards a little bit more autonomy, but we pride ourselves in collaboration with physicians. We want to work with physicians closely and learn from them as they can learn from us. Physician assistants are kind of cool because when you graduate, you can start in one specific area, but you can branch off. So for example, I know a lot of people that started in family practice and now they're working in neurosurgeon surgery with surgeons. It's a little bit unique compared to the nurse practitioners, where they are nurses and they train on the nursing model, which is a little bit different. And when they go to NP school, they're kind of locked into a certain specialty for the most part. And of course, we have our amazing physicians, MDs, DOs. They go to medical school for, their 4 years, and then they do their residencies. Some residencies are as short as 3 years. Some can be daunting, and they can be like 8 years if you want to be a neurosurgeon or orthopedist, those kinds of things. But the whole key is like all of us practitioners work together in collaboration with the hopes that we can have great outcomes and help patients in their medical journeys.
Yeah, that's a perfect explanation. There's so many different like healthcare providers. It's hard to differentiate,
Yeah.
especially to like a person who has no idea about healthcare. It's daunting. But looking more at your like personal experiences, what inspired you to pursue writing since you already have an established career in the medical field?
Well, that's a good one. What happened was, through my journey in practice and my personal journey, a lot of things were happening. And I had opportunities to travel. So I found myself on an airplane and with my phone, and I couldn't dictate. So one finger at a time, I started writing little chapters about things that happened in the office or something I observed that I thought maybe we could have a better outcome concerning, things that were happening with my family. Before I knew it, within a period of about 9 months, I had on my notes, like literally like 40 different topics. And all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, hey, this could turn into kind of like a simple, easy read, cottage type book. And I thought, you know what? Why not? So that's what got me in the realm of wanting to write. I had done some writing in college, nothing serious. My background, I'm actually a musician, so I'm more music. I actually writing some music though, way back in the day. And I was like, I enjoyed writing like short stories, and this was like a perfect fit for me because it's almost like a bunch of short stories all in one book.
Okay, so you would say that your book isn't like necessarily this like nonfiction, like boring read. It's like kind of like stories also.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think if there's a misconception about my book, is they look at it, surrounding the business of healthcare and knowledge is power. You see these hands, they go, boring, boom. We're just going to throw that one out. Well, it's not that way, but it was important for me to have a topic, to have the title be, hey, we're all in healthcare together and we're all trying to survive. So if you really want to survive, you better know what you're doing. And that's where knowledge is power came in. And for me, the hands were like building trust. And so for me, it was like trust. But then at the same time, I was like, when I started writing the book, it's like, I want to really be able to relate to the reader. And so the way I can relate to the reader is to be totally honest about my cancer journey, about being a doctor's kid, about stuff that happened. And I promise you, everything that I say in the book happened. I didn't make it up. And that's the thing, is like, I can never talk about these things with HIPAA these days, and it would never happen. But like, things like somebody, coming into our house and admitting that they burnt down the Little League stadium, and to my father, and my father calling up the police and saying, hey, so and so, actually, you need to come and talk to him. Crazy stuff like that. And just all the things that happened in his office at 3 o'clock in the morning when ambulances weren't going to the hospital. They're going to my dad's house. So there's all these things that are going on in my head. And I was like, okay, how do you make yourself more relatable? How do you present this topic with a little bit of humor, a little bit of real, true grit, laying it out there, vulnerability to a certain extent, when I share my inner thoughts about how I'm probably going to die in 5 years, because statistically, as a melanoma patient, that could happen. And also the journeys I was going through in my parents, that were really tough. And I said to myself, like, I believe there's got to be a bigger reason for this, and I need to share all these kinds of things.
Yeah, so I think you've been touching on this a little bit already, but can you describe your purpose in writing Surviving Healthcare? And what are you hoping that readers are taking away when they're reading your work?
Thanks for that question. My purpose is to literally set the conversation out there. It's Many people go to healthcare providers and they go, whatever they say, I'll do it. And right now, there's some disconnects in healthcare, the healthcare experience. Providers are feeling overwhelmed. And for me, what I found was that I was continuing to chat with patients about the same topics, about what they should expect out of healthcare providers. And honestly, if they weren't getting it, they should go find somebody else. I talk about that. Um, I was always also talking to the patients about, they'd say, well, my health insurance says, and every time I would hear that phrase, I would go, no, 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 no. Your health insurance is a tool. I say in the book, everybody needs some form of healthcare, because if you have a big devastating injury or cancer, you can be wiped out. But at the same time, I just felt really, really that was important that I shared this knowledge that I gained, and I was able to help people save money. By example, like, you have your health insurance, but it doesn't mean you have to pay for your medications through the health insurance. If you can go to Costco and get a 90-day supply of your lisinopril for, let's say, $15, which is pretty much what you pay, it might be even a little less, and your insurance has a plan where the cheapest medication is $25. Hey, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to Costco. And whenever I hear my insurance says, I go, no, no, no. But we have been led to believe in this country that the insurance controls everything, and they don't. You control your health care. You need to advocate. You need to, like, listen and ask the questions. And if you're afraid to ask a question, go find somebody else, because there's people out there that will answer those questions. And so that was really the passion. The other thing was, I really, I came from a family where my parents lived to be in their 90s, and everybody would say, you're going to live forever. And one little spot in my arm changed my life forever. And I was beat to submission. All of a sudden, I was the patient. I was wondering if I'm going to live. Am I going to get to these immunotherapies? How am I going to deal with everything? And it was the most humbling experience ever, because I got to put to practice as a patient my advocacy, but also that experience of what a patient goes through on a day-to-day when you're wondering, am I going to make it or not? And what is going to happen to your family? And so, those are the things that drove me to do what I did, and to write this, and hope that every single person will gravitate towards it, and learn something from it, and be more curious. That's the thing. One of the best reviews I had was, I got a 3 out of 4. I wish it was a 4. She gave me a 3 because I loved the book, but I wanted more, and I felt like I was shortchanged. I go, yes, that was the purpose of the book. Exactly. And if you want to give me a 3 out of 4, fine, because guess what? You got it.
Yeah, no, I think your book sounds like it has a lot going for it, with stories, but also advice. So like throughout your book, what is like your favorite part about it? Is there a story or an aspect, maybe just a general idea that's like stands out as your like favorite part?
Yeah, it's stories about when patients felt like they were dismissed and nobody was listening to them. And these are patients that would come to me. And I'll give one example out of the book that still is one of the most amazing stories. And I am so humbled by it. I had a patient who knew me for years, and he'd come and see me, and he was always, always healthy, no problems. And all of a sudden, for no reason at all, he was starting to have like mental breakdowns, like he was losing it. He didn't know why. He went to a couple different providers. He went to psych, and everybody basically said is, take, your Prozac, get over it, toughen it up. You just need to get over it. He and his wife came back to see me, and they were like, there's something wrong. There is something wrong. And I'm like, you know what? I believe you. I know. And what I learned is that patients know their bodies so much more better than we do, and go with it. Go with the lead. If they say something, run with it. And so the ask was, they wanted to go to a local neurological institute for an evaluation. And they were getting pushback from their insurance, and they were getting pushback. So together we got them the evaluation. He was evaluated, and he was diagnosed after MRI of the brain with a brain tumor. Now, he had surgery. It was a non-cancerous brain tumor, but it was affecting the limbic system of his brain, and it was causing him to be emotional. 6 weeks later, he comes, he's still bandaged up, to my office. He goes, hi, Barb, how you doing? I'm going, hi, how's it going? He goes, I'm great. I go, how you feeling? I feel normal again. He was dismissed. He wasn't heard. He wasn't cared for. And it took him and his wife to advocate for him, to come to me and say, you know what? Let's check it out. He was right. How many times in healthcare, hey, there are amazing providers out there, but providers are tired. They're overworked. You have to advocate. And if your gut tells you there's something going on, don't give up. And I wear a shirt all the time. If you look at my social media, you'll think I have no other wardrobe. You'll see this shirt in social media too. And it says, never give up. And I hope subliminally, while I'm walking down the street and they see this short, frumpy, older female, and they see this shirt, that maybe if there's something going on in their lives, they won't give up, and they'll continue pursuing it. That's part of the book. And there's a few other stories like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has a story, like whether it's a family or a friend, somebody they've heard where they get dismissed. And I think it's like a larger conversation to be had in healthcare with like patient advocacy and empathy just in general, for sure. But yeah, it's definitely a large issue. So it's nice to see like providers like you like tackling it and bringing some more attention to it. So I guess moving on, you mentioned your formal education was in music originally, but how has your formal education and like medical background in general translated to your work?
Well, you know what was interesting is my dad was a doctor. I was thought I was going to go into medicine, and I was a euphonium player, which is like a small tuba, and I still play a little bit. And in high school, I ended up on music scholarships, and before you know it, I was studying with the best instructors in the world, um, and Dan Parentoni, and he was my mentor. And what does that have to do with medicine? I think some of the best providers are actually musicians, because they think, you've got the right brain, left brain thing going on here. And for me, I was a teacher and had great experiences with my students, but there's something in me that said, I need to go into medicine. I need to follow that dream of what I thought I was going to do when I was 6 years old. So I made the conscientious decision when I was in the top of my game as a musician, as a teacher, to make that career change. And I worked in a physical therapy department in Maricopa County, and I'm grateful for that experience. And I got to spend time in the burn center, and we did wound debridement on burn patients day in and day out, and we got them out of bed and we worked with them. And those experiences, I want to be a very passionate provider, and being grateful for the experience that patients want to come and see me. And I tell students, it's an honor for us to care, and it's a calling, whether you want to say it or not. People that go into medicine, like we discussed earlier, it's a calling. And when you forget the why you go into medicine, that's where there's problems. And I think that had helped me evolve into my career of practicing, owning my own practices, wanting to advocate, being, as visible as I can, to hope that this passion will rub off on others to want to follow the career that's been so great to me.
Yeah, you really started in the hardest part with the burn unit. Like you really like worked your way.
I
Yeah.
never thought I could do it, but I'll tell you, I got to tell you one quick story. Geez, we had a family that was in a helicopter, and they crashed in the Grand Canyon. And we had I think she was like 17 years old, and she had like burns across about 85% of her body. And, the skin graft surgeries, I don't know how many surgeries she had. She had over a dozen surgeries. And I can remember a team of, oh gosh, like 12 of us bedside, just trying to flip her over so that we didn't disturb the skin grafts and avoid infection. But what really got to me, and this is how I got into PA school, because I told the story, by the way, I think because one of the people started crying, is day in and day out. Finally, we got a tilt table. We put her on this tilt table, and we tilt her up really slowly. I'm at her feet because I'm the tech, right? I'm at her feet holding her, and I've got the therapist there. And I look up at her. You can barely see her face, but you could see her lips, you could see her eyes, and she smiled. And this particular person recovered, still has her issues, and she is now a physician. How cool is that?
No, that's really cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, how cool is that? And that's why I tell people, like, how cool is that when they like, oh, I'm burning out of medicine. I don't know why I did this. I go, do you get what you get to do every day? You just need to like help prioritize and find the right job where you're not burnt out, those kinds of things.
Yeah, providers definitely do get burnt out. It's crazy, but it's
Yeah,
it's a special
it's an epidemic.
profession to enter. Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you balance your writing career with your personal life? Since like you've talked about being cancer patient, like it must have been so hard to like be able to even think about healthcare when you're faced with like your own health issues. But like you seem like a very busy person with so many responsibilities. So how are you finding time to write?
You just make it a priority. I've slowed down quite a bit. The cancer treatments kind of made me do that a little bit. I listen to my body. I try to make sure that I'm out walking. Made a conscientious decision to leave Phoenix, get out of the desert, and I live in Seattle now, because the weather's just more favorable for me. I probably could better, to be honest with you, on that one. But I just kind of roll with it. I try to make time for myself every day, even if it's only 15 minutes. I love music and things like that. I think you just kind of learn, what you can do and what you can't do. And I also have days where I'm like, I just check out, like, I just can't do anything today. And that's okay. Whereas before, that would not have been acceptable. That's just not acceptable. We keep going and going and going. Now it's like, okay, it's time for me to have a little respite care for myself and just, do that. You learn to prioritize too. I think if I could give one um, piece of advice sometimes, and I'm working with new managers right now, it's like they're trying to do everything. I'm like, you know what? Especially management now, and as a physician, a PA, nurse practitioner, nurse, all of us in healthcare, if somebody's coding, we need to do something. But I tell people, like, if they're not coding and everything's fine, like, relax, take a deep breath. Your work's going to be there tomorrow. And I think learning that lesson has carried me far. Whereas before, I tried to get everything done every day, everything done. It's like, gotta go, gotta do. But I'm learning as I go. I'm not perfect. Gotta always go.
Yeah, efficiency is important, but I think you're right. Like, if you're gonna like take everything with stress and panic, then it's not gonna help the patient either. So yeah. And then what's your advice for aspiring writers, people who maybe want to write their own books?
Do it. No, seriously, do it. You have nothing to lose. You have an idea, you've got, the imagination. I wish I had the imagination to write something like Harry Potter, but, I get like two sentences in. I'm like, okay, where are we going to go with this? I wish I had that. I don't. I think everybody has something to say. And I think everybody's journey is special. So in the nonfiction realm, I think there's plenty of things to say about life and things that they've learned, even if it's like just by, doing a blog or something like that. I think that people shouldn't be afraid to try, because what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. Okay, you look at it and you go, okay, that's a start. And the nice thing is, like, for a lot of writers that you see, they grow. You start here, but it gets better and easier and easier and easier as you go. And so that's the other thing I tell people is, like, no matter what it is, writing or learning an instrument or running, you just got to try and you just got to build on it. But I would tell people, why not do it? If I can do it, anyone can do it.
That's good advice. Okay, well, that's all the questions that I had for you, but do you have anything else that you want to add or say?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm really grateful to the online book community, because honestly, I hadn't had a lot of sales for a while. And with COVID, if you notice in this book, it was written before COVID. There's not one word about COVID. So that can be refreshing, actually. But all of a sudden, it started ticking. And all of a sudden, I started getting emails, this review, that review, this review, that review, this review. And all of them, with the exception of the person who wanted more, were 4 stars. And so all of a sudden, I said, you know what? There's still a lot of validity in this book. I believe in this book. And I would hope that it's an easy read. It's a fast read. You could open any page and it's a different subject, that everybody out there, it's cheap on Kindle. I think it's like $1. If you have Kindle, like your Kindle subscription, I think it's free. It's on Amazon for $12 because it's a hard copy and it cost me a little bit. And, I wish, if people have input on how I could change, the title or something to make it more sellable, I'd be open to that. But I appreciate those that have read it, their time and their feedback. And I would hope that all of those people would share it with a friend, and another person would share it with a friend. I didn't do this to get rich, but what I did do it was to say, we have things, folks, that we need to think about, whether it's being a patient, being a provider, or being somebody who, we didn't talk about this a lot, that advocates for their family. How do you navigate and get to the journey? What are the things that you need to prepare for that? It's all outlined in the book. So I can almost guarantee, I can never 100% guarantee anything. Somebody in the book is going to find something there that's going to make a difference in their lives. And if I get feedback about that difference, then that's what it was all about. So I would really hope that people would take the time to read it, send some feedback. I'm found on askthepa.com, Barb at askthepa.com. I want to be more involved on the online book club. I would love to chat with people that have questions or concerns. I would love to do that. I'm still having maybe pick your brain about how to navigate a little bit more to be able to reach out to some people, because when we get reviews, we're not allowed to respond or do anything. So I want anyone that reviewed my book a deep, sincere, even if you didn't like it, thank you for the review. Thank you for taking the time. I'm eternally grateful. And I'm here if there's anything I can do for anyone.
All right, well, that's all for today. Thank you, Barbara, for taking the time to talk with me today. And for those of you that are watching the video, if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.